Aloha again, beautiful souls. It's Karina coming to you from Hawaii, and I want to talk today. I want to continue my series on body dysmorphic disorder or body dysmorphia and speak about the causes of it. So today we're going to focus on the causes, and I want to remind everyone that I am not a medical professional. My background is in teaching. I haven't taught for 2 years, but I really, I know how to research, and I have this condition, so I'm really looking for myself, personal, and if I can help others by guiding them to maybe get assistance for yourself. But I've looked on, if you want to know where I've researched, I've looked at the Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, John Hopkins, WebMD, sites like that. I think that's it. I had a little list going on there. If you do think you have BDD, though, I've put a link in the description for a test. Just answer a couple questions, and I kind of give you a score. I wouldn't put too much basis on that, although I did it. I did speak to my doctor today, and we went over it, and it's definitely body dysmorphia that I'm being faced with right now. And we spoke about, what is the cause of it? And there's not a lot of research out on this disorder, which is so strange to me, and not a lot. I think, and I'll go into that later, it's because of the secrecy behind it. But one theory about the cause of it is that issues that have deal with neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals that help the nerves send messages in the brain to each other, and that it disrupts that, and BDD often occurs with other mental disorders as well. I think major depression and anxiety, it can occur with those, and I think we talked about a little bit of anxiety and OCD, and there's some eating disorders that can be found within BDD, a combination of things that can occur. So, but let's talk about the factors that can influence or influence the development or trigger a reoccurrence of BDD. So first of all, I mentioned yesterday, it's usually occurs within youth or at the younger adults, but from what I've learned, it's, traumatic events. It could be emotional conflict that is found in childhood, low self-esteem, parents, family, or friends, or partners who are critical of that person's appearance, pressure from peers in society that attaches beauty and value to personal appearance, which, boy, we're seeing a lot of that right now on social media. So that's kind of scary for me to realize that if 1 in 50 is occurring now, and look at this boost of social media, what are we going to be seeing in our future? But let me continue. And then last, I discovered it could be some bullying or teasing can foster feelings of inadequacy, shame, or fear of ridicule. So it was stated that there were 3, underlying factors: environmental, psychological, or biological. So I'll continue on in just a minute. So I have to pause this. Sorry about that little delay, you guys. So I want to talk to you about, I keep looking at the wrong spot on the camera. I am so sorry. I forget how my phone is flipped. But I want to talk to you about diagnosis right now. And again, I did tell you that I included a test in the description if you want to just do that. But diagnosis tends to be difficult because there's so much secrecy and shame that's attached with sharing these type of innermost thoughts, and it goes on with embarrassment. So it often goes unrecognized. A red flag can sometimes be repeatedly seeking out plastic surgery. And from what I've researched, there tends to be some checklist in some of those plastic surgery offices that maybe try to catch it then, if someone's repeatedly is returning to get more and more procedures after something is fixed, and then another one. So how is it diagnosed? A physical exam. You go to your doctor and you get a physical exam. Um, and then that doctor will then refer you to a psychologist, psychiatrist, but it deals with, again, they're looking at if you are preoccupied with a flaw or flaws in your appearance, repetitive actions such as grooming techniques, mirror, what I talked about, looking in the mirror often. And then, for me, it was also the scale, repetitively weighing myself. Um, and then also sometimes you can't function at work or your job because you're worried about how you look. So those are some, ways, that things that they ask you. What is the treatment? So we talked about the causes, and there's really, all I found with the treatment on and was, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, as well as taking SRIs, which are some type of, medications for anxiety, obsessive disorders, or depression. I mentioned to my doctor today, it's funny because we were talking to my psychologist, and he mentioned that he was not very familiar with a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, and he would check with a colleague, and maybe if he feels the need, refer me out to someone else. So I know he's checking on that. Living on an island, that's not unusual. A lot of people, when they come to Hawaii, they complain about I've never had problems. I've had the best experience here with any medical professionals, but living on an island, you don't find in a small, even though the big island is the biggest of the Hawaiian Islands, it's still small compared to the population, compared to other areas. So you might not find professionals that have expertise in a lot of areas, because you just don't see those issues arise as much here. And sometimes people complain about not being able to find treatment for their different disorders or diseases or health conditions, and it's not because the doctors aren't great here. They are absolutely wonderful. It's just that hadn't been a need, because there's the population smaller and there's just not that many occurrences of it. But the best thing that I found here is that anytime I've had an issue, my doctors have always said, oh, that's something I need to look into a little bit more, and let me look more into that. And, next time we talk, I'll get back with you. I know that happened when I was decreasing my hormones, trying to decrease my hormones with my primary physician. But anyway, so, but they did give me several things to do. He did give me several things to do on the treatment, which I will then share in my next video, because I started them already today, but I want to do them for a few days before I comment on them. One thing was something that I kind of knew I should be doing, and I haven't been doing enough of. It has to deal with affirmations on my worth and just being me. And I have included that in the past, but lately, I'm literally telling you, I've been obsessed with my face and my skincare, and it's really kind of took over. So I'm going to get back to that, and then some other things I'll share in my next video with you. But give me a few days so I can really discuss and give you an update or how it's doing for me. But I feel that, and this is such a funny thing to say, but I mentioned it in the video yesterday and again to my doctor today, I feel like I'm on the other, or getting on the other side of this disorder, and I liken it to climbing up a mountain. And when how difficult it is to go uphill if you're on a hike or climbing, and then the way back down, or on the other side, however you want to think of it, it's a lot easier because you're going downward. And I kind of feel that way about this. And then it reminded me of this funniest story, because there's this place here in Hawaii, the Captain Cook Monument, and you can hike there, or a lot of people take boats, snorkeling boats, or rent kayaks, and there's only certain kayaks that have the license to actually go there. They try to keep it pretty protective. It's such a beautiful area, and it's where the battle happened with Captain Cook, and you can actually see cannonball shots in the side of the mountain, and the UK or the British military has a monument there that they actually upkeep every year, or they upkeep all the time. They're responsible for the upkeep, but it's a very gorgeous area. But I can tell you right now, it's the reverse of my story. You go down to get there because you have to go down the mountain and get to the shoreline. And then it's so funny because coming back, it's like you can get down in like 35 to 40 minutes. And then coming up, oh my God, it takes me like 2 hours to come back up because it's just straight uphill the mountain. So that's not what's happening here. It's like it's the typical climbing up a mountain and then coming back down to get back to where you're going, instead of that. But anyway, I'm going to go on and tell you about my personal story. So this story is what I spoke with my doctor about today, when we were discussing, why is it occurring right now? What's happening? And it's, I mentioned to him, it's not that it's just now occurring. It's been present in me since, my episode with Believe Me. And it's actually, I think I said 30 years yesterday. It's been like 26 years since I hadn't had another episode, but I've been suffering from this disorder for at least 30 plus years. But if you've watched my videos, or some of them in my 30-day manifestation videos, I talked about physical abuse, and I've talked about physical abuse in later videos as well. But I was involved in a traumatic relationship that was physically abusive, and I think at the end of that, it was like I was getting beat up. I'm not talking about, I had black eyes, I had bruises on my body, I was being kicked and things like that. And at the end of that relationship, it's like, God, I'm an empath and I'm a loving person. I had so much love to give. So I felt so unworthy and so unlovable. How could someone do this to me? And I think that's what triggered that's the trauma, and that's what triggered this disorder in me. And those were the type of things that I was going through then. And then what's happened now is, the doctor mentioned the trauma from the divorce. What's happening now, the feeling that I have inside, leaving this relationship and being an empath and knowing what I gave to this. I know I gave everything of myself, all my love, all my money, all my affection, all of me. And at the end of it, I felt how it just seemed that it wasn't good enough. And how could I have been good enough when now they're treating me so badly and so aggressive and so angry and resentful and selfish? And I think it just, I started looking back, is there anything about me that was beneficial? And the actions and words from them say no. So it's easy for then my brain to follow along with that. When you are faced with aggressive treatment or resentment. And, when I look back at the relationship, it made me question, why, am I deserving of this? Was anything appreciated? If not, does that mean I'm unworthy or unlovable? Am I not worthy of love or kindness or generosity? And I think, this divorce has triggered that in me, whatever's happening on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis during any kind of interactions. And so that was like he thinks that's the main thing that really brought out the obsessive behavior again. Although I think the lifestyle change has affected me as well. I lived in Pensacola. And when I was living in Pensacola, I worked at, my favorite school that I've worked at there. And, that it was so loving. It was such a great environment. The teachers respected each other. We were friends. The kids were just so loving, and they just absorbed everything, and they loved the curriculum, and they loved going to the school, and we loved working there. And it was just this back and forth, giving just appreciative comments and loving comments, and everybody was generous with each other and kind. So that, when I left that, I went to other districts that I didn't find that. You know, the last school district that I worked at was in one of the highest poverty districts in Florida. And the first high school I worked there, it was not a lot of love and kindness and generosity. It was just, you know, it was a lot of bitterness and resentment. And I stopped getting some outside things that I guess I needed to control this BDD, although I realize now that I need to control it myself, but other things, outside influences, were helping control it, you know. And when I moved into this area in Central Florida, I wasn't getting that. I wasn't getting that from the student. I wasn't getting that from the fellow teachers. And I wasn't really getting it at home. In the home relationship, there was not a lot of appreciation shown, or love, or compliments, or affection. So I think I started seeing the cycle return before we moved to Hawaii. You know, I started seeing myself get down on myself. And actually, at the school I was last working at, I would say hello and tell people, you know, good day and things like that, and I wouldn't get a response. So I felt a lot of hatred toward me, or just ugliness toward me, and I wanted to leave that job, and I didn't. I was, you know, encouraged to stay with it until the end, which probably was a mistake right there. I should have left and started working on myself. And, you know, really, it's not. I'm going to tell you right there now. And I don't care what kind of relationship you have. There is nothing more important than your daily happiness and your feelings of self. So don't allow yourself to stay in a job because of money. It's not worth it. There is no money in the world that is worth your unhappiness, to where you spiral into some kind of depression or issue with anxiety, or worse, like, you know, low feelings of self, and any kind of disorder, whether it be depression, anxiety, eating disorder, or this BDD. No job is worth that. And so you have to listen to your intuition and follow strong. No matter what the people around you are saying, you have to be strong enough in yourself to say, I'm not going to take this anymore, that this is not right, and be able to walk away and know that, you know, you're going to get out. Once you leave something that's negative, it allows something positive to come into place, and it'll always work out. You just have to have that hope and knowledge that that's going to occur. So anyway, so that's how I ended my life on the mainland. And then when we moved to Hawaii, it seemed to be even worse. I mean, it was good because I didn't have to work. We set ourselves up in a way to where we just needed very little money to, you know, cover the bills or the expenses of the home. And so I had no interaction with anybody else. And then I was at a job that really was not a lot of compliments. It was at a farm, a lot of labor, physical labor, and just not, you know, although everyone got along and we were all friends, and that it wasn't that type of, you know, personal, too much personal didn't get involved. You know, it was like I said, it was physical. You're busy pretty much all the time, even though we would stop and chat and try to lift each other up, but it didn't foster that super amounts of love or kindness or generosity, although we did see it. And I think, and I was only there like 2 days a week, so that wasn't a major portion of my day. And then I would come home and not be exposed to that. This is, you know, what the therapist and I talked about today, is that not be exposed to that in the home situation. So a majority of my life was just, which is okay, but when you have a disorder, it's only you depending on you to get out of it, and you don't even know you have this issue. And it was not good. And, you know, and that's what I realized now. That was the great unhappiness in the relationship that I felt. And, you know, it was this disorder was triggered because I was having low, you know, feelings of low self-esteem and unworthiness and unlovable, because I wasn't getting that kind of attention from my partner. And it really started the BDD to come out stronger and stronger and stronger. And then now that, you know, I'm pretty much on my own, doing everything on my own. I'm relying on myself for everything, which is the way it should be. But it made me also realize that it has, I have this issue that I need to overcome. And that's what we're working on now. And I think I've gone over everything I needed to talk about in today's video. So I will talk, tomorrow or the next time I make a video on BDD, it's definitely going to be what I'm doing for treatment, specifically what I'm doing and how it's working for me. But I want to remind you once again, even though, and it's funny because I talked to my doctor about that today, and I'm like, I feel like a fraud almost getting in these videos. And I'm so, happy because the sense of self inside, emotionally, I'm happy. But I have this thing in the background that is like, really hard for me to look at myself in the videos, hard to put on makeup, hard to get dressed and decide what to wear. And it's like, I feel like a fraud. And he's like, no, that's absolutely the opposite. He's like, you're being honest, you're being transparent, and you're sharing your truth. And I was like, okay, that made me feel a little bit better. I tell you what, I can't tell you enough how good that therapy session was for me today. So if you do think you have BDD, get with a doctor immediately and try to get with a therapist so you can talk through this. I was able to talk through so much of, really release all these things I think about myself with a medical professional who then doesn't treat it like, oh, you'll be okay, and oh, don't worry about that, and oh, you look beautiful. No, it was like, okay, let's talk about why you feel that, and what do you think that stems from? And it was just a wonderful experience, and I look forward to our next session, and I look forward to doing what I have to do to overcome this and really be on the, I'm already on the way, and I am healing. So that's all that I can hope for, and let you know that there is hope. So if you're having these feelings, if you're looking at yourself and you can't stand how you look and you're hating yourself, there is help available. You just have to make the decision to look for it and make the decision to do something about it. And that's the hardest, because I know when you're depressed how hard that is, but I'm here to tell you that it can get better. And again, this is just what has occurred for me. I'm not a medical professional, but I am getting better, and I am doing things that I need to do to make sure that my mind and my body is working at the optimum state that I can work in, because I have work to do. I have more things to do. I have to help others. I have a greater purpose, and I want to get myself in tip-top shape so that I can do the best job possible for the next 50 years of my life. So I want to remind you as I end this video today is to be intentional with your thoughts, words, actions, and deeds. Make them filled with love, kindness, and generosity, and live your life that way. Because when you live your life that way, things will come back to you in abundance. It was very good for me to hear today from the doctor. He was very impressed at the active state that I'm taking with my own personal health, and how knowledgeable I was. And I wrote like 3 pages. That's another thing. If you do go see a doctor, I encourage you to write down your thoughts and feelings, get them out, and then speak about them, because your doctor doesn't know what you're feeling inside your head. Only you know that, and only if you share it can they truly treat what the real issues are. But I hope this video, I hope this video finds you well. I hope you are happy and living with joy. And if you're not, again, like I said, you can do something about that. You can find this high frequency state and live in this every day. It's not as difficult as you think it is. Our thoughts tend to make things more difficult than they really are. I've made a complete turnaround in my life since March 2021. I mean, complete turnaround in my life. What I'm eating, what I'm, drinking water, and, what I'm putting in my body and how I'm taking care of myself and my thoughts and my feelings and my relationship with my children and my relationship with myself has just changed for the better. So I am proof to myself that things can get better. And I hope that I wish you the best of luck in whatever you try. And if you do have BDD, I suggest you speak to a medical professional as soon as possible, because I did learn, and I will state this as often as I can, there's a higher rate of suicidal behaviors due to occurrences of body dysmorphic disorder. They actually have a higher suicide rate, as well as suicide ideology and suicidal, just whatever attempts or thoughts. So I want to remind you that the suicide prevention lifeline, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number is 800-273-TALK or 800-273, that's 8255. So speak to someone if you have those thoughts right now. Just call them up. Like I said, for me, taking that first step and acknowledging and facing this issue head on has been the right step in the direction to my healing. So until next video, aloha again, everyone. Beautiful souls, I have to say that, because we're all beautiful souls. We all have this soul inside of us that we were born with, and sometimes life and the obstacles that we've been faced with in life have done something to that soul, and we have to find it again because it's in us, it's part of us, and we are meant for great things. We are children of a higher power and higher creator that have created us to do good. And I feel my purpose is to help other women and to help the planet and to change things the way they are. And some of the problems we're seeing in the world, change that back. And that's really what this whole aloha again journey has been for me. And along the way, I'm learning so much about myself. So I encourage you to join me on my journey to a higher and greater self. So I hope your life is filled with happiness and bliss and joy, and this day and this video finds you well. So until next video, though, I will see you then.